Hey everybody, my name is Raw Skye. This is the Women's Health Panel. We have Marabella, we have Lisa, and our special guest this month is Toni, who'll be talking about healing, hormones, and divine feminine. Hey everybody!
Hi.
Hello! So for those watching, we have had Marabella and Lisa as a special guest before. You can go back on my YouTube channel. There's a podcast. You can go back and watch that. But today we are joined by Toni, who is in Thailand. And how about you start and you tell us about your journey?
Hello. Thank you for having me. And hello, everybody. So I've been on this journey of especially trying to sort of figure out who I was. I've been quite a spiritual seeker since I was probably 19 when I really read my first spiritual book. And I knew I just didn't want to be in England, the cold, wet. And I had this energy of just freedom and I felt very restricted where I was. I don't know if it was just the weather or who I was surrounding myself with, and the dynamics of the family wasn't as very supportive. I just felt very restricted. So I did go on a path of I need to find who I am, what I'm here for, and I've always wanted to work with animals, help animals. I had a very deep connection with animals. So I ended up coming to Thailand traveling 16 years ago, and I felt a deep spiritual connection here. So I ended up volunteering for a Soy Dog Foundation, which is one of the biggest animal welfare organizations in Asia. So very blessed to have been working with them. And we was all sat around the table, and I remember this so clearly. We was all eating our lunch on the break, and I was feeling very sensitive. Things were just happening where I was really connecting with the dogs and others. All of a sudden I was becoming this really just sensitive. I've always been fairly sensitive, but it was really heightened around 16 years ago. And I think it was from the work I was doing, figuring out where my place was. I didn't know who I was, what I was doing. And I met a fruitarian, my friend James, who is now a really good friend of mine. And he was eating a big bunch of bananas, a huge bunch of bananas, and that's all he was eating. And I was like, what? I was eating my rice and my chicken. And we were all talking about the dog meat trade and how cruel and absurd that was. And it was mainly in neighboring countries of Thailand, but still Thailand was still eating these dogs and mistreating the animals. And I was just like, oh, this is barbaric. And then he just turned around and said, well, there ain't no difference to you eating that chicken and the cow. And all of a sudden just light bulbs went off. I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Well, this is so disconnected to my heart. It felt so huge for me and a big life changer. And I was just like, okay, from that moment on, I went vegan. And I also dipped into fruitarianism, raw vegan, but I couldn't quite sustain it at the time. I didn't feel it. I was just like, I took so many addictions and my hormones was all out of whack. Before I went vegan, I was actually iron deficient. I was really hot, like hormonal chaos. I suffered from depression, anxiety, low moods, just really not happy with my life, who I was, very insecure. I would out train a poor diet. I would go excessively at the gym. I used to undereat. I would eat sometimes just like an apple and a chicken for the whole day. So I had severe distorted way of eating. And I knew that was affecting, my being, the way I was connecting to myself. So, and then I realized about all the animal industry and the way we treat animals. I was like, this is not who I am. This is not love. This is not peace. So I went on that mission of being a vegan. I was an outreach worker working with a lot of vegan projects in the UK, speaking at universities on behalf of the animals, and I went really on it to speak up and be the voice for the animals. And then in that, I was still depressed. I still had, because I was seeing a lot of the truth. There was a lot of cruelty, and Thailand still was there. Went back to England because I didn't know how to make that work, because I really wanted to be in Thailand. But I was like, how can I make that possible? That was so far from how I could. I didn't know what to do. I was working in the gyms as a fitness coach, and I started on the path of wellness, educating others on health. But there I was, eating animals, not feeling my best. I had iron issues. Suffered really bad from anemia. But as soon as I did go vegan, that started to light off. I think it's because I had a purpose and a mission, but there was still that depression and my hormonal fluctuations during my periods. Everything was still quite dark, and especially when you see the truth, I was like, wow, this world is even more sinister than I thought. And then I was like, okay, I know about law of attraction, and I really delved deeper into self-development. And I was like, let's look at all the good and all the positives. And then I reminded myself of the fruitarian lifestyle or the raw vegan lifestyle. And I was like, well, that seems positive and nourishing. And everyone who I was watching were all very positive on the food side and healthy and feeling good. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to start eating more raw foods. And I spoke with James and I asked him to send me some. Larissa, I was watching your channel because I had really bad cellulite. And I was watching your cellulite videos, and I was like, I really want to get rid of this cellulite. And I started listening and applying eating more raw foods. And I was really got into the raw until 4, and that was serving me at the time because I really struggled in the evenings to go fully out. During the day it was fairly easy. I was eating abundance of bananas, the banana smoothies. But that was helping. This was like a process. So I knew not to be all or nothing. That's one thing I would share with everyone. Was one of my key shifts in my whole journey was not all or nothing mindset, this instant gratification. I knew I'm on this path of healing, of feeling safe within my body, helping the animals, being the voice for the animals. But also I've got to be well as well. You know, it's all right speaking for those that can't speak, but I have to be well because I was still miserable. So in a nutshell, I ended up implementing more raw foods, and then still had my cooked meal at night. And then I started to really delve deeper into meditation and really deeper on my spiritual practice, because naturally the raw foods was aligning me with my connection to self, this spiritual world. That was because I was seeing synchronicities, and when you start seeing these little signs, you start thinking there's more than just this 3D reality. So as soon as I stepped into that, I felt much calmer, more at peace and trusting. And that's when I knew I'm stepping into this divine feminine. And I started looking at my addictions, my eating habits, why I was eating that cooked food processed sometimes on an evening. Why am I still doing that? So I knew, I was aware that this was not serving me and not my higher self and not helping me clear the channel. So the more I meditated, the more I practiced this calm, peace, regulating my nervous system. It was a given. Raw foods was the path for me, even though I never truly wanted to. I could not give up my cooked food and some processed foods, but I just knew that I wanted to heal and feel better and feel good about myself. And 6 years ago, I went through a massive change. So 16 years ago, I knew I wanted to be in Thailand, but 9 years ago is when I made the shift. I made it. I came over to Thailand with my 2 dogs, but pretty soon after they passed away, I went into a little bit of a low period, but I ended up really full on helping the dogs at the government dog pound. And that was heavy. And I started to really decline in my health again, started to binge a little bit more like I was doing before, and just to try and numb my emotions. But over time, gradually, that compound effect, knowing that, so that advice that I was sharing, I've jumped a little bit, was, not all or nothing, but just the little things we do every day, like the compound effect by Darren Hardy and Jeff Olson, Slight Edge, just taught me to just do little things each day to improve, how I felt, what I was eating, what I was doing, just that little insignificant shift, that little change. So when I came out to Thailand, I felt like this was home. This was where I needed. This is where I needed to be. This is where I belong. The fruits, helping the dogs, and then I ended up working more online in the vegan space. So that was bringing in some income. And then 6 years ago, 6 years ago during COVID time is when I was fairly high raw, but I couldn't give up some things. There was still some things that I was just like not able to give up. And I've never really been into the cleanses, but I went through a breakup, and because of COVID, the depression that I came back in with, because I've found that I'm really controlling, as most women are. We want everything a set way. And I had my plans to move out of Thailand, actually, to go to Central and South America. And I had everything booked, and I was leaving. And that was the plan long term. After around 5 or 10 years in Thailand, I really wanted to explore Central and South America. So I was so excited for that. But I wasn't 100% sure, because I knew Thailand was my home as well. I was really happy. But there were moments of like my little wanderlust. I needed to leave. And everything. So once I got everything booked, I finally booked it, because I was still unsure for years. It all got cancelled. And then I split with my long-term boyfriend that I came out with from England to Thailand. I went through a really crisis. I was very low, and I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Nothing's going my way. So I just went back into the practices that I teach, and what I sometimes was doing but stopped doing for a while. I was like, okay, back into meditation, back into eating cleaner. And I did a 40-day juice cleanse, and that catapulted my next level of my journey. And that's when I went fully raw. I was like, I am a fully raw vegan. I don't want to eat any cooked processed. I really want to hydrate my body and start to be happy, and just want this trusting and knowing. And that's when it really heightened my connection to the divine feminine, because I was living in a lot of masculine, a lot of survival for many years. I want to soften. I want to be calmer and peace. I knew I was still erratic. I was still behaving like I was in this survival. And I just stepped back. When I did that cleanse, I really stepped into this calm, peaceful energy. And from that, I've been able to really regulate, my nervous system, my hormones, because there were still periods at times that my menstrual cycle was heavy. When I was eating cleaner and healthier, I felt my periods were lighter, because I used to suffer from like 8 days of full heavy periods with mood swings, like suicidal thoughts for about a week, sometimes longer, headaches, cramps. So when I did and that got lighter on the high raw, but when I went fully raw, that all shifted. And now I've got this equilibrium, this homeostasis, and I've realized, okay, it's not just what I'm eating, but it's my stress, but it's all interlinked. So I started to really work on more of this slow living. And that looks different for everybody. For me, it just not this. I was always rushing around. I didn't realize that I'm not as calm as I thought I was. And the way I spoke, I was really fast and really intense. Now it is much more slower, calmer, more present. And it's really helped me with my emotions. More physically, it's more my emotions and my connection to myself. And this is what I help others with. And, stepping back into love rather than control and these rigid regimes. Yeah, that's where I've got to now. And that's only been really over the past 6 years. But it's still in the process, it's still in the work where I'm still catching myself. My old programs come in. So I'm fascinated by habits, beliefs, patterns. And they're not us. It's just what we've picked up from others. And I look at my family dynamics, that was always quite intense and in survival. We came, from we didn't have a lot, and we was struggling for money, and we just never had much. So I've come from a lifestyle where I was always in survival. So I've really been trusting and learning to really trust myself and my own body what it can do naturally. It can heal itself through the cleanses that I've done, the deeper healing that I've done. So that is it in a nutshell. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack, but yeah, I found that I've just through simple and slowing down has really helped me really reconnect.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love when you share that whole journey. You interlace the love and the spirit, and how your soul, you found the veganism, and how you seem to get lighter along the way. So thank you for sharing. Can I just ask, Toni, are you in perimenopause, or your cycle's still regular at this
Yeah,
stage?
I'm 40. I feel it's no, I'm not. I'm not in perimenopause now. Not yet. Not
Okay.
yet. So, but I'm not sure. I'm hoping that I don't struggle. Like there is. What I've learned to do now is, because I've noticed when I've got a heavier schedule, I notice I'm a little bit more stressed, erratic, and but now through the clean eating, so I'm really careful in monitoring my cycle, because what I've noticed that weak luteal phase, if I eat heavier, denser foods, I'm much more stressed and low self. Like that comes old programs come in, and I'm like, so I'm careful of, okay, is it physical or is it emotional? What does my body need? So I do work more in the intuition. So I'm finding I'll eat more. I'm not. I'm really listening to my body. I think I stopped listening for men. I thought I was listening to my body, but no. I'm at this moment in time. Everything seems to run smoother when I'm really connected and really in tune with my body and listening. What do I need? Do I need heavier foods? Luteal phases. So I've been really mastering the cycle, the female cycle, because that was something I didn't really. I just knew when I was on my period just to be a bit kinder to myself, maybe slow down a bit more. But now I'm really intuitive in, do I need what? Because I'm not opposed to supplements, but I think that's something that I might consider going forward. But right now, I don't take anything, and I do continue to check my vitals, my bloods, every year, just to see if I'm feeling, depending on it. But most of the time, it feels like it's emotional rather than physical, and that's when I've really sort of tapped into, is it making sure that am I getting what my body really needs?
Okay, before I ask if anyone has questions, which I'm sure people do, welcome Dulce. She snuck in there.
Hi. Thank you for having me, guys. Lovely to
You're
meet you, Toni, and thank
welcome.
you for sharing your part of your story. So beautiful. See now how you integrate it and how you embody it. It just tells you how much work have you done in yourself, and it's just beautiful to see a person who is in her softness and the divine feminine. It's all integrated, and I know it comes and goes sometimes, but the awareness that you already have and the way that you're living, it's showing on your eyes and on the way you speak, and it just feels so good. Congrats.
Thank you.
Look.
So, Lisa, Marabella, do you have any questions for Toni?
I could ask, yes. I really love how you mentioned that you willing to take something, because like, when you're 40, I'm gonna be 46, and I did not think that, I would notice as much for perimenopause. But when you were talking about like the emotional stuff, it really does play an even bigger role when you're going through the decade of perimenopause before you actually get into menopause, because the hormones are all over the place. And I personally found taking like ashwagandha, rhodiola,
Yeah.
things like that, herbs, which would be considered raw, they're dried, raw temperatures. So, for people who are concerned about that, having some kind of like a supportive herbal thing can really help to regulate through that. And I wanted to ask, aside from the supplements, what would you recommend, or what have you gone through? Because you mentioned like you were living a lot in the masculine, and I feel like a lot of women are naturally in that state just because we have to survive as women in this world. It's really challenging. But what would you suggest to somebody who's also maybe taking some supplemental herbs to support maybe more of an emotional, energetic, maybe some tips that they could try to move away from the masculine, because that's so hard for so many people to do?
Yeah, it's for me, it's less in doing and more in being, and just really practicing this still, just here and now, the presence, and really simplifying my life. Not, that I know when you've come from a masculine, it's like, what? How does that even happen? But when you really for me, when I meditate and I realize, okay, there's a lot of stuff in my life that's not necessary. So naturally, I feel guided to certain things. At this moment in time, in regards to support what I could take, it's really, for me, I always look at the food and the herbs. So it all depends on where I'm at. But for me, I'm really like having more greens, like it was more fruit based. Green seems to be really supportive, especially the endocrine system, and I feel, yeah, it's just a lot more, you're getting different minerals, and I feel now I'm more called to, more greens, more green juices. Still having many fruits, but salads have been a big part, and more seeds recently, because I did go through a phase of heavy, I was fruitarian for a long time, and that was working, but then I just felt, okay, I feel called to, the leafy green, the greens. Because I used to feel, oh, do we really need them? And now I'm open, because I think there's phases of this journey that you go through. Oh, you don't need that. Mono fruits. I was doing Watermelon Island for a long time. I think it all serves a purpose. It all has a place. But if we're really connected, and for the feminine, just having, for me, it was just, even though my life was busy and intense with the dogs and with clients and what they're going through, I really mastered my bookends of the day. So I mastered, like, the mornings was very slow for me, starting my day with meditation and reading. Same with the evenings, journaling. And then everything seems to be more in flow. So instead of thinking about fixing and controlling, I just focused on more just being here. And I know for some of us, it's like, how is that? It's one of those that you just, it happens gradually once you start to listen and start meditating and just being present. I think that comes, it starts to come when you're feeling safe within your body, because we know stress is one of the biggest killers, high levels of cortisol in the body, the dysregulated nervous system. So my focus has really been more towards, especially coming from that survival masculine, is coming to trust my body, trust that I am safe. I've come from a family. I was not really part of the family dynamics. I was very different. Like I said, I was questioning. I was into the spiritual journey, and I went vegetarian for many years. So I was very different to my family. So they didn't really understand. I left home at 16. So I've been on my own pretty much since then, and trying to create a tribe and a family, as I've shared with Skye, is like, now it's like, okay, I've done a lot of inner work, and now I want to create. I was always very fearful of who I surrounded myself with, careful, because I knew that was a big impact on, because I was so sensitive and I feel. So I had to be very careful in the end, especially from the family that I'd come from, who were very defensive. And I had a lot of abandonment issues. So now it's just really practicing the safety within my body, and really having this calm, wanting to have my mission and being their service, but also doing my own inner work, my own protection, and setting boundaries. I was definitely a big people pleaser for years. So for those coming, I think everything has a place depending on where you're at. And this is one of those, when you really trust yourself, you'll start naturally getting guided towards where you need to go, a person, a teacher, a food, a particular food. So I used to be really strict. No, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. I was well into the fruitarian. Fruitarian is where it's at. And I'm like, now, no, let's listen. Let's get into your own guidance system. We can have all of these supports around us, but really the real work is to try and connect to our own heart and our own guidance system.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, that was really great. I love listening to your thoughts.
Thank you.
So good.
I was just going to say off the back of that, because there's some questions here, especially the one about how do you balance the hormones naturally, and we can talk a bit more about this. And there's actually a comment just saying that ashwagandha can be really sensitive. I actually am on estrogen replacement. I've had a full hysterectomy, bioidentical hormones. But what I notice more so before I put this in is about this masculine energy, about how protective estrogen has been for me. And I think with my history, that's why I need some to support me. But how much anything becomes so much bigger when our hormones decrease. So having a blood sugar rise, not having greens with my fruit is very problematic. With estrogen, not so much. But with no estrogen, any stressor, because that's a stress in the body, anytime I decide to be around a stressful situation, I'm not as protective. And I'm just sharing this because that's the biggest thing I notice. And I think that's why I do so much better with estrogen for me, because I've just been through so much. There's so many stresses and it just lowers all of that. But when we go through these changes in life, that may look different for different people. And I love how Tony's is so spiritual. I love how Lisa shared about the ashwagandha. Marabella, you're very spiritual. And Dulce, I know you're very in tune with all the herbs as well. So maybe we can, if just because we are talking about what else can help on these journeys, and there has been questions, Dulce, what would you say helps herb-wise?
Well, it depends on any situation, right? But on my experience, I have done a lot of fascia maneuvers or somatic practices that comes to help release the emotional trauma that we carry in our body. So that is gonna help with the stress and the cortisol, and then with the with the adrenals. So you can start clearing up, and then the herbs that we can be taking, like I said, I will say, mm, for the lungs, marshmallow root, it helps a lot with grief. It's related. And with the liver, I will say dandelion and kidneys too. Dandelion, it's always like my go-to, and it's very gentle, and you can add it on your salads if you don't like to drink teas. Um, or you can have a tea, and there's different type of mixes that you can make. But that will be some of the ones that are gentle with everybody, and they're gonna help. But yeah, there's some things that are connected to our organs, with the emotions, and especially with if we're working on the survival, it's gonna be the right side for us, because that's the masculine, and there's so many things that we can be working on through breath work, and with yoga can be, or it can be just with specific connection that we make, even with our scars. And women that we have C-sections, like making the connections and the release about it, we can align our hips or just release the trauma that we have stored in our body. So there's a very long conversation about it, but to make it fast, it will be that, like, pay attention to if we have any scars, if we have something that we're carrying on, if we're struggling with our hormones, I will always go to our adrenals and lymphatic system. Like, you have to go back and back and back, and just help the whole body, because it's not just one part. It's all connected, and that's the way that we can support, but through breath work, special fascia maneuvers, and it can be through yoga too. It's just like the trinity of our breath with our body, the physical, and and at the same time with the mind, with these limiting beliefs that we can release, and just feeling safe, as Tony says, it's so important. Like have that safety so you can let things go and heal. And I mean, it's all integrated, but I will say try to dive into those things. Support your body with herbs if you feel drawn to. If not, search for the fruit or the vegetables that are going to support the specific that you're dealing with. And the one thing that I do drink is shilajit to with the hormones, and I make some pauses just to see the difference on how my body feels. But it's always like it connects me more to the circadian rhythm, and yeah, it just makes me feel more in my feminine. Whenever I'm on the rush, depending on the activities with my kids and with John, it just helps me to be more attuned with my cycle as well.
Sure. So I just want to preface here that everything we're sharing is in support with diet and like good sleep and like nature and exercise, like those 7 principles. All like you never want to, as Tony's saying, how she went through a period of like trying to like do workouts to compensate for bad diet. That is just a mental health problem right there. Like you want to make sure you get the foundations right, and then everyone in this panel is on top of that using these as extra things to help support. So I just wanted to preface that there. Go for it, Lisa.
I wanted to add also for the question, it says, do you have any tips on balancing hormones naturally without HRT? Some things that like you were mentioning, Skye, which I love that you are doing it for your body, is like, number one, like we shouldn't be shamed if we have to take it, like if it works for your body, do it, right? But one thing that you mentioned that kind of sparked this that I wanted to share was that it was protective, and estrogen is actually extremely protective on the female body. And, Alzheimer's and bone loss, osteoporosis, all of these happen faster when we lose the estrogen, right? Which naturally happens. It's something that we all go through. Our ovaries just stop making it eventually. And so something that could be protective, which I have been like blaring from the rooftop, is the weighted vest and the exercise for bone density, because when our estrogen starts to dip, we don't have that extra protection that the estrogen has on our bones. So we need to do extra things to help our bones kind of like be put under pressure so that they can become more dense. So having the weighted vest and making sure you get that exercise in. And if you don't want to do the weighted vest, just get on a weightlifting program of some kind, because you want to get that stress on your bones so that they actually start to build themselves a little bit stronger. So like the average woman through perimenopause is losing, I can't remember the exact statistics, like 1%, I think, of their bone density every year. And, it accumulates, and that's what leads many people to osteoporosis. So if we want to help support our body through that, the weighted vests are definitely an easy thing. Like you could just wear it while you're chopping your vegetables, while you're folding laundry, while you're walking around the house, or on your walks, or what have you. But that's just going to help to give your bones a little bit more bonus. And then on top of that, making sure that you're getting enough sunshine for your vitamin D, or take a supplement if you are living in colder climate. Make sure that you're getting some vitamin K2, because vitamin D and vitamin K2 are essential for bone growth. So K2 on a raw diet, natto is a fermented like soy product. If you didn't want to do the actual slimy ferment, you can get freeze-dried powder and just add it to your sauces. That's what Nate and I do to get our K2. It's good for dental health as well, because we do get K1 from our leafy greens. And I love how Toni was mentioning, like, get the greens in, because they're so mineral rich and so supportive. Yeah. And then that K1 is converted by some bacteria in our gut to K2, which is like a different form of the K vitamin, which we need for our bone and, teeth health. So taking it in the form of natto which is one of the top sources of vitamin K2, because the bacteria do it for you. So you're just eating it and you've got all this K2 in there. But also, keeping your calcium up again with the greens, just giving your body all the building blocks, the Lego pieces, so that when you do put that pressure on, your bones have something to use to grow. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you actually mentioned about the shame around. Do you know, like, as in the lifestyle, there's niches within it, and you're like, no, I'm just eating this, and it's like, wow, we are really then starting to disconnect from our body, and that's why I really want to bring into your own connection. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because there is, sadly, when you've got someone, especially. Yeah, if you're in your masculine, you're really fixed on one thing and not seeing what else is around, like what potentially could support us. And we're just, no, and that was me. I was always like that. No, I'm going to do this. And that's what I've told myself. No, I really now, and this is a whole new space. I mean, for a while now, but still for most of my life. And I'm glad you've mentioned about the shame and the guilt around opening up to other options for us. So thank you for mentioning that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I just want to say off the back of that, I know Kiko's not here, but she shared this before. We're all about, medicine has a purpose, especially if somebody is declining very quickly, like I was without estrogen, or someone like Kiko was actually near death and needed blood transfusions and refused them based off this sort of mindset. And she shared all of this. And that's, she's done everything. She's trying to look after her body. She's done everything she can, and then still scared. And I think Larissa on this panel as well has said at a period of time she had a severe infection, which wasn't getting better, and she took some antibiotics to help her. And she doesn't take it regularly, but when it got so severe, and that's what this is all about, is opening up to do the best you can, and don't ruin all you've done by saying no to things that at the time can definitely help. And I just wanted to share as well, this I found very interesting this week, because I crave a lot of mineral-based foods, like whether seeds, but a lot of veggies, cruciferous and greens. And my mum obviously has been in menopause for a while. She and a lot of women end up with blood sugar issues, moving into diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and thyroid issues. And my mum was starting to have some of those, and she's been taking some trace minerals for a few months just in water. She's not vegan or high raw or whatever. And because when your estrogen decreases, it also plays a role in thyroid function, not directly, but indirectly in the bloodstream. I can't say the science right off the top of my head, but it does. And a lot of women will suffer. And her just taking minerals in her water has actually, everything started to rise again for her. Now, I assume my body is wanting a lot of minerals to once again balance itself out. So like as Tony's saying, and how many people learn on this journey, including myself, is we can get into a stage and mindset where there are groups of people who are like, you're just dirty, you need to just eat watermelon type thing. And it's like, how about we sit in that feminine, we honor what our body is saying, and we look after ourselves. So I just thought I'd share that, some interesting things that I learned this week.
That's beautifully said.
Marabella, do you want to ask any questions or have anything to say here?
Yes, I just wanted to add to the hormone topics of the exercise, and then that helps with the sleep, and sleep helps to rebalance the hormones. It's super, super important. And I love what you said about being open to your feminine and doing what's right for you. I know it's easy to fall into that shame or woulda, coulda, shoulda, shouldn't do this, can't do that. And so I appreciate that conversation. And I was curious about how your relationship is with animals now, and if you've always had a connection with animals all throughout your life, and how being vegan has, like, what it's done for your connection, if it's brought you closer.
It's always been there. It was just distorted, I think, with society, and then when you're thinking, why are we eating animals when we love animals? And it just, if I could turn anything back, I mean, we all learn through different ways and how we come into it, but it really cemented the way I live, my heart. I'm so, connected to animals, people, nature. I was like, for me, it's just made my my daily life just more in alignment. For me, it's always been there. But I think I'm vegan for the animals 100%, and I've shared vegan for the animals and raw for my health. And the dog work is just, I'm definitely, I've stopped the vegan activist work because of the emotional side to it on my body. I focus more on how I can support women and others as well. Just come in. If more people were less stressed, I think they would start to look at all areas of their life, because most people I would share with, they're in survival. The last thing they think of is others or like animals. But when we can really, I always used to say my sort of hidden agenda is, we've got some police. Is that police?
Yeah, I'm in Vegas, so it's loud.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, my thing is, if we get people that just start loving themselves, loving their bodies, loving life, they're really going to start loving all beings, and then that connection really starts to come more deeper. And I've always had. Every time I was a child, I was always with animals. It was my, even when I go into gatherings, if there's animals, then I'm with animals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love that. I always bring this up, that because people are like, what is it, like that key moment where you healed yourself, Skye, like from 32 years of chronic illness? And it was like, well, I learned to love myself and listen when I chose foods. So like, and people are like, oh, I have, I want pizza. And I'm like, yes, but then my brain started saying, Skye, the next day you don't get up. And I was like, well, that's self-harm. And then I discovered along the way that these principles of loving me would then be applied to everybody around me just by default. I'd been trying a lot of, like, being in that masculine, and a lot of my life is any extra energy as a sick person, I was giving it away, but I was probably giving away more harm than good, because it was coming from, not from self-love, but from self-preservation. And so there's so much value in actually learning to love yourself with, the food and what choices you make. And then if you add hormones or herbs, and then you go for walks and you have weighted vests, and if you can bring everything from love, that's essentially how a person who even finds raw for health first becomes vegan, right? Is that it's all coming from love. So I love that love comes up.
It's a ripple effect, isn't it? It's a natural byproduct. What's going to happen? And it's like when everyone works from the heart, comes from the heart. It's a given. Like, you start to look at all beings as love, and as why would you want to treat your body, one, as a graveyard, but also why we want to cause any suffering and harm to other beings. We don't want anyone, really, when we really connect, when we're connected, we don't want to see anyone suffer.
Exactly. Does anyone else on the panel have a question or something they want to?
I wanted to ask you, Toni, about the moment when you started to feel safe on your body. Did you had an experience with, I don't know if you have a partner right now, but if it was needed for you to integrate it with any of your relationships, once you have that moment for you that you feel safe, like once you're connected with someone else, how was your experience with it? Because you were mentioning about boundaries and all of this, and it just it's interesting to see if that came from a relationship within yourself, or it was also mirroring with someone that you love.
Oh, yeah, this is a good question, because this is something, relationships have never really been my focus. I will be honest. In the past, my thoughts were always, I need to get out of survival. I'm independent. I'm a girl boss. I'm going to save the animals. And it was always about being independent and animals. And like I said, when I came over to Thailand, I came here because I couldn't believe how many neglected and abused street dogs they were. So that was my drive to come out here. But I was in relationships and long-term relationships, but I never really invested, if I'm totally honest. But I did have a beautiful connection. We're still in touch, but that ended last year. We were together we met when I did just after my cleanse, actually, because when I started to think about, I really want a deep connection. I really am looking for love, because I did push people away. I was quite, I had a lot of defenses, didn't really trust people, didn't really realize this until later on, because my focus, my mission, I said, was just to be independent, don't need anybody, help save the animals. That was it. That was my two focus. Now, actually, this new place that I'm in, now 40, because people used to say, I used to have this conversation with friends, like, they always talk about relationships and meeting someone, and I'm like, oh, I'm not even bothered. They'll come and they go. And Ma was like, I just needed money. I just needed to survive. I needed money for the dogs. That was the space I was in for many years. Now I'm in the space of, I'm looking for love. I'm looking for connection. But one thing I'm careful of, because this new space, it's new for me. It's important. This is I'm looking for deep connection now, and now because I've experienced 5 years ago that beautiful connection, but I still led in the masculine. So my what I'm studying now, I want to put some more energy into, is just softening more in the relationships, obviously to myself, and which I've been working through, but others, and especially the meeting someone intimately. I want to meet someone that can lead, and not me always leading and being bossy and I'm in charge, so I'm learning about the masculine and the feminine polarity, but I'm aware that I still have my defenses, because I'm kind of torn between, okay, trusting that, no, this is just the feminine and you want to soften. It's not that you're trying to control everything, but also learning to, I'm probably a little scared into trust someone and feeling safe, that I have this safety within my body, being safe. But so I'm still torn at the moment between trusting someone and feeling still safe in my body. So it's a new space I'm in. So that's funny you've mentioned it, because I'm ready for long-term love and the romance. And I've never been in this. This is all new. I'm really ready to romanticize in that area. And this year I've been focused on romanticizing my life in many simple ways, just like just having a nice hot water and lemon in the morning with a candle and journaling, and this feminine. Yeah. So, because before I was just always up and I'm go, and especially helping with the dogs. You're out there, I'm picking up dogs that people would be like, that's the dog's got rabies or skin issues, and I'm just like, I'm in. I'm very because some of my friends say, wow, you've shifted. My old friends back at school, they say, wow, you're so different now. Like you're wearing dresses. I'm not saying you have to, but like I'm much more, delving deeper into the softer part of myself. And it feels so good, and letting go and actually wanting to be taken care of. That would be lovely.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Thank
love
you for sharing
that.
it to me. Yeah, that the moment of really surrender to a man who is in his wholeness. I think it's something that we all, once you have done it for yourself, it will come naturally. So
and there's a part of me that wants to control it. I want it now, and I'm ready, and I'm like, but okay, this is the work now within the relationships.
Yeah.
I love that. And I mean, we can talk more on this. I mean, I haven't brought it up, obviously, because I'm hosting this and I haven't had a partner in a while. But I will just put it out there that when you come from so much trauma, which a lot of us do, and you work so hard on yourself, I am so careful as to what, not just men, but who's in my life, because I'm scared of pain. I was in pain for too many years, and I know that that's a huge block for me, but you guys are reminding me to move forward. So those that do have partners, feel free to share, like, what role does that play? Go for it, Lisa. I know you do.
Oh,
Time.
God.
We've been together so long. Wow.
Yeah, so we just celebrated our 6-year wedding anniversary. And
Oh, congrats.
I would mention for anybody who's interested in this kind of discussion to check out a woman named Teal Swan on YouTube. You follow? Yep.
Yeah.
Let me find her. You go.
Yeah, we listened, so we downloaded a bunch of her YouTubes to listen on our road trip. And 2 really stood out. One we kind of started like really talking a lot about is she describes containment. So it's not control, it's containment. And a woman wants to be contained. A woman wants to feel protected and safe, and so that we can be like, the flowy, soft woman that we are. But we're so like hardened by society. Being a woman in this world is so hard. But you want, the masculine to contain you like a clamshell holding a pearl inside. And we want to be contained. And that really, I wouldn't say shifted, because Nate and I have always been like really good. Like, he's the masculine, I'm the feminine. And so we work really well. But listening to that it really brought it to the forefront. Like, we talk about it a lot. Like, we'll be walking and sometimes he'll stop and move to the other side of the sidewalk, where he'll be walking where the road is and I'll be walking where the boulevard is, and he'll look over at me and he'll be like, just trying to protect my pearl, like, so he's always focused on protecting me. What can he do to make me feel safe? And then we listened to another one that was really quite powerful. She was talking about how she asked an audience, and if you ask many audiences the same thing, probably the same reaction. But if anybody, men and women in the audience, had experienced a fear for their life, ever in their life, and a lot of people will lift up their hands. All the women will lift up their hands. Most of the men will. And then she'll say, who has experienced fearing for their life in the last year? Now, a lot of men will lower their hands, but all the women's hands stay up. And then she'll say, in the last month, in the last week, and even today, and all the women's hands stay up. And it's a real shock for a lot of the men in the audience seeing all of these hands up of women always constantly feeling fear of some kind. And she's like, if you ask a woman, do you feel fear? Oh, a lot of women will play off and be like, no, but it's always kind of like, it's almost like it's generational, as a woman. It's in the background and it's always there. And she was talking about how, we have to shift this dynamic where the men actually contain the women.
Yeah.
So we don't feel the fear, and then we don't have to, try to be in survival. And this plays into the whole perimenopause, menopause realm, because most divorces happen in perimenopause because women are going through these like crazy emotions, especially if you're not eating, a healthy diet or what have you. You're drinking a lot of alcohol, you're trying to survive, your hormones are all over the place. And, a lot of marriages, they're like, I don't know my wife anymore. And the wife is like, I don't even know myself anymore, like, because we've lost that connection because we are losing our hormones. So it's about like finding that safety within ourselves and in our relationships, and having the man like own it, like, I'm going to protect this woman. I'm going to do everything in my power to do that. And so I find like, that's why Nate and I are so, everything is like, I want to say perfect, because, it is perfect. He's the most containment field I've ever felt. And I've come from narcissistic relationships and, other things in my life that just, I was always in survival mode, trying to make enough money to survive on my own, or battle these like emotional things, and even finding self-love, like we were talking about. I wanted to also mention, like, a lot of people feel selfish by doing self-love things, like they're like, I shouldn't be doing this. But it's like, if you do these things, if you go to bed early and you do your exercise and you drink your smoothie with candlelight or whatever you're doing in the morning, like, these things aren't selfish, they're actually selfless, because when you fill yourself up, you can be more to others without feeling drained. So yeah, those are some thoughts.
That was for me. I felt so guilty putting that energy into me rather than the animals was a new, and I had a lot of shame and guilt around that, but that has definitely worked over the years. But yeah, so true. I love Teal Swan's work. I think now understanding that, having somebody, when you notice your patterns, so who you attract, and you look, if you could, this is why the slowing down and really reconnecting is really important to see, why we keep going through the same cycles. Because I noticed all my patterns, that the men I was attracting were very feminine and didn't want to speak out. And so then I started to notice, why is no one taking charge? It's because I'm taking charge.
You were taking charge. Yeah.
So it's a nice, I think when we can really connect and slow down, I think you'll start to see your own patterns of what you're doing and where it feels out of alignment, can you come back into that.
Yeah, totally. And that moment of solitude, it's where you really know what you truly want. And I think it's really important to know that, because then you're gonna be kind of ready of, you're gonna be aware if that's something that you're doing for yourself, so you can be sharing that to the person that you love. Because if not, then you're gonna be seeking something in the outside that is not fully integrated within yourself still. So it's so beautiful. And yeah, there's so many people that John and I listen, and the moment where I was experiencing that I wasn't even myself, and I got divorced, and this moment where it was all chaos for me to really shred and really love myself and start that journey and that consciousness of what really desire and what I want and who I am, and all this journey that we can take when you start doing that self-love. It just comes to know what you want and how you're actually loving yourself, so you can I wouldn't say attract, but it's just like, it was for us, it was just like a mirror. And if I go back to the list that I had in my mind, and the honesty with what I want is exactly done. And like, I was just like, oh my God. When I met him, it was just like the sun, looking at the sun right away. And yeah, it's been like that. Tomorrow is gonna be our first anniversary. And thank you. And it's just been so beautiful. And we're just grateful to have done our inner work so we can be together. So yeah, the moment where you can truly surrender to a man who has done his own work and has been working on, even on his feminine, but still uh, to be in his wholeness. It's just something that as a woman I appreciate a lot. And I see, and this is really important, the environment that we're experiencing right now, a lot of men are not even aware of that, but their testosterone levels are dropping so much because of the toxicity that is around. So even when they want to, there's so many things in our environment that are just dropping the testosterone levels, and it's crazy how they cannot be the man when you're not aware. So yeah, I will say, let's help people to detox and just bring this awareness and allow the man to be the man, and us as well. I love that you were lighting up a candle and taking the time for you, and maybe it's a tea, or maybe it's write a poem, or whatever it is, or take your bath, or whatever that is, just like loving yourself. And so beautiful. And yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's really important. And I saw that video, Lisa, where a lot of women were raising their hands, and it's just crazy, right? And even on a safe country, there's so many countries where women are experiencing so many things that it's just it breaks my heart. But I experienced that in Mexico, and it's not like you cannot travel there, but there's some places where, oh my God, I don't feel safe, and I don't feel like, or even people say you cannot be walking by yourself at night, and you're like, it shouldn't be like that. Like, yeah, it's beautiful that Nate is walking on the edge and protecting you. Experience that, and yeah, it's just so beautiful.
It's
I'm
true.
grateful for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like you said, when the man is, takes charge, and we have to release that in order for them to take charge, right? Like you said, Toni, like you're in charge. You're planning the dates. You're doing all the stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
like you have to like relinquish it. Be like, okay, but
Yeah, you
That's a
totally
hard
surrender.
yep,
Yeah.
surrender.
Yeah, and it's gonna be shown in your relationship with everyone, and with when you're just with them as well. Like, we're not gonna go through that, but yeah, it shows in every aspect in your life. And this beautiful thing that you're saying, that even wearing dresses, I was looking at something that was related to it, that it just brings more into your feminine, and how the men love that, right? That the tradition now, it's just like wear the different stuff, but just making you feel more feminine in a specific way. It's beautiful to have that space for you. Yeah.
Well, it's a new study of mine that I'm tapping into, but also allowing just that naturally to come. But I'm also curious, I'm delving deep into the polarity. I'm like, oh, that's why that happened, and that's why they reacted like that, because I'm taking responsibility.
Yes. Okay. There is there's comments coming up. I haven't got them on the screen today, so we can concentrate on us. But there was something that came up that I wanted to, where is it gone? A question. Oh, have I lost the question here? Oh, here. Would you date someone who isn't raw or plant-based? Toni, you go. Go for it.
That's a good question, and something now. So I was very lucky in the last connection. He was already vegan and went raw with me. And I do feel I'll naturally inspire. So I'm open if they're not, but if they're not open-minded, sorry, if they don't down the line, if they're not curious about it, I think it's, for me, because of the energy I'm in, it's a given for them to just naturally come. For me, it doesn't frighten me. But if they're a really strong, no, I need my meat, or I see carnivore, like I'm in the dating world, it's like, no, that energy anyways is not for me. It's not something I'm attracted to. I like the open mind. Okay, yeah, I'm curious. I'd like to experience this, or maybe I'd like to step back into it. They just need some sort of like support. So long term, no. But in the initial stages, yeah, it's for me, it's one of my strongest values.
Yeah. When I first went raw, like I was paleo, which really is like getting rid of like the way processed food, and then vegan, and then whole food, and then raw. You see everything so clearly, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone that I'm around and everything I decide to do, actually, it's just like I'm ingesting. And at the start, I was absolutely, this person would have to be raw. Like the energy that it took for me to get to where I am, there's no way it wouldn't be. But then as I've become more open-minded, I believe that the person would have to be raw, vegan, or plant-based, in that, yes, there may be meat there, but they can see their way through type thing. Like, but I don't necessarily think it's a judgmental thing. And this comes back to the self-love that I've done on myself. It's simply vibrational. Like, it's not, if I don't mix with somebody, they're on just a different path. It's not even that I think this person's bad. It's just vibrationally we haven't connected. And that's how I see it. So it's not that I'm even like, because I used to eat meat, right? And everyone's on their path, and these people aren't necessarily bad people. Or in the past I wouldn't have dated them, but it's just vibrationally, I can't see how it would ever even kind of come up. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could speak to this. So I've been married. It'll be 12 years in November. And I actually went raw in 2022. So I've been going back and forth between raw, high raw. And my husband, we are complete and total opposites. He will eat vegan, or he will eat what I cook, but he likes to eat meat. And not only that, he likes to hunt. So he has, yeah, I know. He has a spiritual philosophy on the hunting, but I don't want to talk about that. But do you know that since we've been together, he has not caught anything? Like
Wow.
right? And and he likes to just I look at it as a time for him to go up into the woods and to have a spiritual time. And I've been to the places that he goes to, and we have been on hikes there. And so it's at this year, it's been easier for me to stay raw and not try to bug him to try to change. So it's like me having love for myself, continuing that self-love, and then allowing him to be on his path. So it's like we're so different, but we connect at the heart. And one of the things that I learned right around the same time that I went raw is breathing through your heart. It's like this simple practice where you breathe through your heart and you think of something really positive. You can use it as a meditation, or if you're with others, like if somebody is pushing your buttons or you feel misaligned, you can breathe through your heart, be with that person, and pretty soon you're filled with compassion for that person. So we have a really strong heart connection, and he is that very masculine man, takes care of me, provides for me, and then I get to be the feminine, do all my spiritual work, all my things. And so what we have just works. But I don't know if I were to go out, if something happened in our relationship and I was going to get into a relationship, I don't think that I would choose someone that eats meat. I think I would choose plant-based. But I love him, and I do have that love for myself. I do connect in with my heart. We have a heart connection. It goes deeper than just what we're eating, because he has a really great spiritual philosophy. He has spiritual reasons for the way that he eats the way that he does. So I just leave room for, maybe I'm not right. Like, what if I'm not right? But for me, I'm doing what's right for me. Like, it's that self-love of myself. So yeah, it works. It can work. He's done juice fasting. He's not as into plant-based as I am, but he'll eat what I put on the table for him, and he doesn't complain. So we have a lot of meatless dishes for him, and he eats a lot of fruits and vegetables. So there's kind of a compromise from him, which I super appreciate. And he's very positive with me about bringing me home. He brought me home like a huge box, like a big case of red leaf lettuce, and that was really sweet. So, and it happened to be, I was craving greens like crazy, like I could not get enough. And so he didn't know that, I didn't share that with him. He just synchronistically brought home that leafy greens for me. And so yeah, it can work.
And also, it sounds like you made a huge difference in his life. And I think that's the conversation that's going on here in the chat about back and forth of, I can't do it, my family doesn't do it. It's just a conversation of being vegan. But I remember hearing a long-term raw foodist say, I don't know which one, could have been you, Lisa, I don't think it was, but someone was saying someone has to be the leader. Like someone has to start. You're not going to go vegan and your whole family is going to go vegan or whole food plant-based. That's just not reality. But like someone has to start, and then you are making an impression every day. Like I assume, Marabella, your husband's only done the juicing and eats so many plants because of you.
Yes.
It's the
Yeah.
difference. Like that has been the act of self-love. You've worked on yourself and you show up for yourself making your food, and now you've made an imprint on somebody else. And I think like in my experience is you have to ask like when these come up, because the first question from Mimi was about I can't go plant-based because of the American diet, and then I can't go plant-based because going out for dinner. If you take those away, how many more things come up? Because a lot of people, you can completely take away the reason they don't want to eat plants, but there's 20 more reasons they don't want to. And it's really like what, in my opinion, what we've all just said here is it's because of yourself. Like when you do that work on yourself, you naturally, that's the biggest change I've made in my family's life, my niece's life, even the medical industry and government here, because they're not paying for me anymore, right? Being sick is all because I loved me. And that was the choice. And there's no, every question that comes up, it's like you go and you laugh with your family, and you're a vegan, so you can just order a vegan cooked meal. Most restaurants have vegan, or you can just have pasta with tomato sauce and salad. And like it's all about you, but don't ever think that that is not a huge change you can make. This is my experience for people around you. Like I find I change people more in my actions of self-love than I ever have by going, you're a bad person and you're doing life wrong. And that just pushes someone so far away. Like when I show up with my salad, I make my dressing, I bring it, I ask if they have juice at a restaurant, like all for me. I do it only for me, but my love overfills and pours out into everyone. Go for it, Lissa.
Yeah, on that note, I love that you mentioned that. And with, the whole relationships, family, eating out and all that stuff, it is all about, what's best for you. But I was watching on the Mel Robbins podcast, she was talking to somebody, and it was about drinking. And, someone's sober, you go out with your friends and everyone else is drinking. When you say no, or when you make your choice, like you're making a raw choice at a restaurant, or you're, like you said, have the pasta with the tomato sauce or whatever it is at the restaurant, you are giving everyone else an opportunity to follow you. Right?
Yeah.
When you follow along with the crowd because it's easier, because everyone else will accept you or whatever it is, and that comes down to the safety thing, or fear of abandonment, or and it's honestly, it's harder on our family than it is on us, because it's easy to pick something vegan off the menu, or just have them take the cheese and chicken off, right? Just have a salad. It's harder on everyone else because they are seeing it and they're either judging themselves, or they're feeling like you're changing and they don't want you to change, because then they're going to have to change too. So it's really about them. And if you show up with love and have fun and, make it like a party, like Nate and I went, he met a new friend here in Vegas, because he was at Whole Foods picking up some food, and he saw another guy with a Toyota truck. So he like goes over to his Toyota, he's looking at it, he's like, oh, he's like cool or whatever. And the guy comes out of Whole Foods too, and they like connected and they became friends. And he invited us on like a 4x4 trail with him and another buddy, and they're like, oh, we're gonna bring food to grill when we get to the lake or whatever. And Nate's like, that's okay, we'll have our food. So we bring our tostadas, and we had the full on tailgate thing going on. We had the guacamole and the salsa and the sauces and everything. Like we went all out because we do that. And they didn't even eat their food. We're like, hey, you want to try one? They're so good, like we're having like this great time. He puts out the big awning on the truck, and we're just having a blast. And they both thoroughly enjoyed. They're like, oh, I've never had this good vegan food. Like I've never had vegan food before, let alone raw, So it's about bringing the joy. And I remember also, before I close, I went to my cousin's wedding this was like 9 years ago, and they had a salad bar. She made sure that I had just plain lettuce. I brought my own dressing or whatever, but there was like a salad bar, so you could just take whatever. And I filled my plate, like literally, I was trying to, show off in a way, but I was like, filled up the plate, like massive full of greens, and I'm just eating the greens. I'm having a great time. And my little second cousin, who was sitting across from me, she was about maybe 10 at the time, she was like taking note. and she sees my plate and she went up and got more food and she came back with a full plate of greens too. And it's just like, you know, when you have fun with it and you're doing it for you and you don't judge others, just do your thing, you know. It's just like, yeah, you know, I'm like really into the salad. And even you don't have to say you're raw vegan or whatever, just be like, I'm just trying to eat healthier. Everyone else is like, yeah, I should probably do that too, you know. So yeah.
Oh,
I love
that's
that.
amazing. Yeah, there's always people
I love that
watching.
excitement.
Mhm.
But I love that excitement because I'm so excited about my food. And whenever my niece is like, do you have any celery? Do you have any fresh cucumber? What about those cacao ball things that you made? What about, and then because when I speak about it or eat it, I'm so excited that when they talk about it, they can't not be excited because that's how they've learned, right? And as I always say, I don't expect them to just eat raw. They've got their own journeys, but they know about it. And that in my heart is enough. You know, whatever they challenges, and as you said, Liz, it's a mental note, is they're watching, and children, it imprints so much. So you don't know, you know, and I always say, like, you know, your family may just say you all went vegan together and it lasted 2 weeks, but if they're watching you week after week after week after week, they over time may start including more. And 10 years from now, they may have been vegan or plant-based for 10 years longer than that whole, like, we're going to do this and it just doesn't last. Like, that watching imprints.
Inspire. That's all we need to do.
Yeah. So we've got about 10 minutes left. I was just going to say, is there anything else that you wanted to talk on, Toni, that you hadn't?
I'm not sure. I feel very satisfied with what I've shared. I feel like we're all still in this discovery. I think if we go through life knowing that there's more to experience, I think then we can really take that pressure off ourselves, knowing everything now, and just love the process, love the journey, as cliche as it sounds, but it really is loving the journey, getting on these podcasts, you know, delving deep into the self-love work. And that's something I wish I would see more of us really embody in this feminine. It more comes up every time I meditate. More comes up of like, wow, the resistance to the feminine, not trusting the feminine, the female energy. You know, I'm like, wow, how well that's surfacing. And I love what's helped me is that the raw foods have really catapulted that, I would say, because I've nourished my body, got back to simplicity. Yes, you can make so many wonderful creations, which I see Skye, Lisa do, all these amazing, like, I think, wow, yeah, I've been starting to become more creative, and at times if there's gatherings, so that I can encourage more, look at these, try these. But for me, simplicity, really stripping away, like Dulce was saying, just stripping away all the unnecessary and just really coming back to our own alignment. And it doesn't have to happen overnight. We don't have to have all the answers right now. And we just take one moment, one step. That compound effect will naturally just start moving the needle forward. And like I always say about the pilot is never on track. He always gets to that destination, you know? So just enjoy it. Just enjoy this more. We don't have to fix everything right now and control everything. That feminine energy for me right now, that essence is, even like I said, because I'm in the rescue space as well. We're helping dogs. You know, there's a lot that I have to navigate every day of like, where's that dog? You know, there's so many sick and abandoned dogs, and there's always some animal that needs support, and it's like constantly challenging for me. But I'm just like, okay, one thing at a time, one dog at a time. The systems I have now is just, I don't have to do everything. I think sometimes as women, we're so naturally want to help everyone and everything. And I love the starfish story of a guy. That's always what brings me back to, because I want to help, even clients. I want to help all the animals. But the starfish story always brings back to that just one individual. He comes to the ocean and he's picking up these dried up starfish, and he throws one by one. I don't know if anyone's heard of the starfish story. I actually have it on my wall because it just takes that pressure off. And the guy comes up to say, well, there's so many, there's thousands of starfish. He says, yeah, but I've just helped this one, and he just continues to throw back into the ocean. I've helped this one. And that's how I do with all my life, with my clients, my friends, my connections, and the animals, the dogs. I'm just helping that one. I've got this particular one. That's why I keep looking down. She's looking at me like, excuse me. We've had heavy rain, so she's not been out so much, but she's demanding. But I'm like, okay, I just focus on this one for now, and that's all we can do. Just one moment, one thing at a time, and the rest will just naturally follow.
I love that. That's a beautiful way to finish.
Yeah.
Did anyone else want to say anything before we wind up?
No, I just love the way that you were expressing the dance of life, basically.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you for being so kind.
Yes, thank you so much, Toni, and thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Marabella, and thank you, Dulce. My heart is so full, and I always learn so much at these. So thank you, and thank you, everybody in the comments. There's like lots of chat going back and forth, and you're helping each other there, and I brought some of the comments up. So thank you so much for joining. Yeah, and I will see everybody next month.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks,
you.
Skye. Nice to meet you
You're
too.
welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.